There comes a moment in everyone's life when they encounter a certain paradox that is not usually spoken aloud. It's a feeling familiar to many, but rarely acknowledged. Being a good person, striving for ideals of morality and ethics, can have devastating consequences for everything that has been created, for all cherished dreams. But the essence of the problem lies much deeper than it may seem at first glance. It's not just about kindness or responsiveness, not about selfless help to others or constant agreement with someone else's opinion. The real reason lies in something darker and more hidden, in the deep-seated motives that govern every decision, every sacrifice, every suppression of one's own needs in order to maintain harmony. Remember all those times when the choice fell on the right path, when you had to remain silent to avoid conflict, when you fell asleep feeling that you had given much more than you received in return. Remember the moments of self-sacrifice in the hope of recognition, gratitude, sincere words, "I don't know what I would do without you." But were these expectations justified? The paradox is that being good never seems to be enough. No matter how much is given, there will always be someone who demands more. There will always be someone who consciously or unconsciously uses kindness for their own benefit. And here lies the key point: no one says that these people are to blame. It's not those who use kindness, who squeeze every drop and ignore needs, who are to blame. The one who allows this to happen is to blame. Deep down, there is something that derives painful pleasure from the role of victim, from the image of a martyr, from the feeling of being a good person. From childhood, the belief is instilled that being good is the meaning of life. But the truth is that it destroys life. And the most terrible thing is the realization of how deeply this problem has penetrated. It affects not only the attitude of others, but also self-perception. The personality is so intertwined with the need to be good, useful, and needed that a person loses sight of themselves outside of this role. Is it ever worth asking yourself, what do I really want? Not what is right, not what will make others happy, not what is expected of me, but what do I want personally? Does a person allow themselves to answer this question without feeling guilty? The answer to this question can be the starting point for liberation from imposed stereotypes and the acquisition of one's true self. Imagine for a moment that the foundation upon which a person's idea of themselves is based is a fiction. Suppose that the virtue that they so diligently demonstrate is merely a carefully constructed mask, a shield designed to protect them from a trauma buried in the depths of a forgotten past. After all, hand on heart, no one is born with innate altruism. Kindness is a learned behavior, a kind of survival strategy in a complex social landscape. And, like any strategy, it has its price, which the individual is forced to pay throughout their life. Perhaps this price is not yet obvious. A person may sincerely wonder, what is wrong with striving for good, with wanting to help others? In theory, of course, there is nothing reprehensible in this. However, in practice, virtue turns into a kind of cage, which the individual daily decorates with self-justifications, convincing themselves that this is their nature, that they are unable to change, that this is the only right path. But here's the paradox: this cage does not provide protection, but only exacerbates isolation, slowly but surely undermining vitality, and the person doesn't even realize it. It is worth considering why the individual is haunted by a constant feeling of exhaustion. Despite all the efforts directed towards the good of others, they are not left with a feeling of inner emptiness, a feeling that something vitally important is missing, something that cannot be achieved no matter how hard they try. This is not a random coincidence, but a natural consequence of living in the shadow of a false personality. And here arises the most disturbing question: what if the apparent kindness is just a skillful manipulation? What if, in the very depths of the soul, all actions are dictated by a hidden desire to control the situation? This may sound harsh, but it is worth considering. Every time a person provides assistance, sacrificing their own interests, they secretly expect something in return, even a minimal sign of attention, an insignificant confirmation of their own importance. They do this not only for the sake of another, but also for their own self-affirmation. And when the expected gratitude does not come, when their efforts go unnoticed, they are overcome with disappointment, they feel invisible. Isn't this a familiar feeling? The person is not as good as they seem. In essence, no one is the embodiment of virtue. True kindness is selfless, it requires nothing in return. While there's always a hidden expectation in every action an individual takes, even if they don't admit it to themselves. That's why we feel such pain when others don't meet our expectations. The reason lies not in their actions or inaction, but in the deeply rooted human need for love and recognition, in the desire to prove our significance in this world. However, it's worth realizing a simple truth: there's no need to be perfect to earn your place in the sun. You don't have to constantly sacrifice yourself and your interests to confirm your worth. A person's true value lies not in their actions and services to others, but in their unique essence, in who they truly are. Until this simple truth is understood, a person will remain trapped in a destructive cycle, selflessly giving themselves to others until nothing remains of themselves. But this is just the starting point on the path to liberation. Now that an understanding of the problem is dawning, it's necessary to uproot its roots. After all, the solution isn't as simple as stop being nice. If it were that easy, the problem would have been solved long ago. It's much more important to understand why it's so difficult to give up the desire to please, to be helpful, and to put your own interests last. This is where the key to the solution lies. Until the root cause of being unable to refuse is realized, it won't be possible to break free from it. Have you ever wondered if agreeing is often dictated not by a sincere desire to help, but by fear of the consequences of refusal? The fear of being rejected, excluded from society, or labeled as selfish pushes people to make rash decisions. The paradox is that by indulging the requests of others, a person loses their own self, turning into a supporting character in their own life, an addition to other people's stories. And the saddest thing is that this process happens unconsciously. It's worth considering how many times you've had to say yes, when deep down you wanted to say no. How many times has agreeing out of a sense of duty resulted in emptiness, exhaustion, and resentment? And what followed? Did anyone appreciate the sacrifice, or was it simply taken for granted? The harsh reality is that once people get used to giving everything, others get used to receiving everything. It's not about malice, but about an ingrained habit of expecting unfailing help. And when timid attempts are made to set boundaries, you may see only bewilderment and resentment in response, as if you've turned into a villain. Sound familiar? It's important to understand that no one is to blame for this. It's about behavioral patterns learned from childhood, perhaps subconsciously. Perhaps a person grew up in an atmosphere where good behavior was the only way to earn recognition. Perhaps they were taught that value is determined not by who they are, but by what they can offer. These lessons, deeply ingrained in the mind, shape every decision and influence the way relationships are built with others. Allow me to present a thesis that may have escaped your attention: genuine virtue and integrity are by no means identical concepts. Kindness, devoid of a foundation of moral principles, turns into self-sacrifice, losing its true value. True kindness stems from self-care, because it's impossible to give good to others without being kind to yourself, without respecting your own boundaries and needs. Otherwise, everything a person gives is just a form of self-denial, benefiting no one. In this context, a paradoxical task arises: to learn to be selfish. But not in the sense of neglecting the interests of others to achieve your own goals, but in the sense of being able to prioritize, take care of yourself first, fill your inner world before trying to make others happy. After all, as you know, you can't drink from an empty well. And there's nothing reprehensible about that. It's perfectly acceptable to say no, set boundaries, and refuse requests if it's necessary to remain true to yourself. However, don't have any illusions, the path to healthy selfishness won't be easy. Resistance will inevitably arise both from the outside, from people who are used to your unfailing willingness, and from within, in the form of an inner voice accusing you of selfishness and betrayal of ideals. But here lies an important nuance: this voice is nothing more than an echo of other people's expectations, imposed by society over many years. And it can be ignored, making a choice in favor of your own well-being and harmony. The author encourages viewers to actively engage in self-analysis and action, suggesting that they record their personal insights gained after watching the video. Inspiring change, he asks everyone to leave a phrase in the comments that reflects the most affected aspect and readiness for transformation. This act of recording is seen as the first step on the path to personal growth. Emphasizing the importance of honesty and self-awareness, the author invites viewers to subscribe to the channel, which raises complex and relevant issues. He emphasizes that true kindness should not come at the expense of oneself, but implies strength, freedom, and self-realization. In conclusion, there is a call to immediate action, encouraging viewers to start their journey to change right now and asking a rhetorical question about their readiness to take this important step.